Hello. So for my first video, I wanted to do just a little bit about me and kind of give you an idea of what this channel is going to be about. So my name's Josh. My username, Mr. Sosatris, is a reference to, there's a character in T.S. Eliot's poem, The Wasteland. She's kind of a strange fortune teller and she reads tarot cards, and she's kind of the key to kind of understanding the symbolism of the whole wacky poem. And I really like her, so I thought, well, we'll just gender swap her, and that's me. So what I wanted to do was, I originally came from Book Talk on TikTok, and it's really fun there, but that is very, it favors punchy, short videos, and a lot of times book reviews on there tend to be a little breathless and frantic, and you can't always get into a lot of the nuance that you really want to explore. And so I've wanted to move to create a booktube for a while, but I haven't had the time or energy, but now I do. And so I wanted to get into more long form content. I feel like it allows you to get into more nuance and kind of explore books and also topics relating to books and different genres in more depth. And I think that is just, it just kind of fits who I am a little bit better, because I am kind of a rambly person. Yes, and there is going to be meowing in the background because there's a cat and she doesn't want me to pick her up. Yes, she doesn't want me to pick her up because that offends her. So just, be aware there will be meowing in the background. So I wanted to start off with what kind of my history is. I was a English major. Well, I guess I still am an English major. I still have that. And oh, here comes the cat again. Okay, sweetie, here, say hi to everyone and then go down. Okay. English major. I was a teacher briefly. I taught writing and literature. Teaching wasn't really for me, in the fact that, oh, here she is again. Yes, baby. Can you go away, please? Yes, I know. There we go. Teaching wasn't really for me. It was just, I really enjoyed the talking in front of people part of it, but it was dealing with the university politics and all that kind of stuff, and like dealing with the department, and I wasn't a fan of that part. I just like talking in front of people, which is why, I'm doing this. I'm a huge fan of both the classics. In school, I focused a lot on 19th century and early 20th century stuff. Some of my favorite authors are like the really melodramatic 19th century authors. Like I love Victor Hugo and Alexandre Dumas, Charles Dickens, although he has some issues, but I still love him. And then the early 20th century folks, like the modernists, who really kind of shook things up. I love Faulkner. I love Virginia Woolf, T.S. Eliot, James Joyce when I can stand him, but whatever. But I'm also a huge fan of sci-fi and fantasy, like obsessed. And recently I've kind of been diversifying my sci-fi and fantasy library to kind of explore more authors that I hadn't explored in the past, just because I didn't know they existed. And it's been pretty cool. So with that in mind, I wanted to do a run through of like my favorite books of all time ever, just because. And yes, there's the cat still there. So first off, and I think this is kind of goes without saying, Les Mis by Victor Hugo. I adore this book. Yes, it is massive. The only way I got through it the first time I read it was an audiobook, and I listened to it on like 2 times speed while I was driving like across country. I was driving from the US back home to Canada, and it was just a very long and involved thing. And so this got me through that. I love this book so much. It is passionate, it's chaos, it's very melodramatic, and it's very obviously like Victor Hugo's just hyperfixations. And it just makes me laugh when he goes on and on about like sequestered nuns, and you're like, is this relevant to the story? And later on you find out, yeah, okay, it kind of is. But I just love it. Oh, and there's a cat again. Can you move? Can you go away, please? Thank you. Next up, Beloved by Toni Morrison, another mega fave. She's a big favorite author of mine. I love her so much. I have read some of her other stuff, and they're all good, but this is the one that I really think sticks with me, and I think it's just because it has that gothic horror aspect, the ghost story at the heart of it, that really kind of acts as a really powerful metaphor, and I just love it. Um, Next up, I've got The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. This book had me sobbing on a city bus in front of a bunch of people, and it's in the best way. But her stuff is funny, it's tragic, it's heartrending, it's just wonderful, and I love her other stuff as well, and I want to read more of it. Now we're heading into fantasy here. Fonda Lee is amazing, and I love her so much. She is just like, I just get overwhelmed. The Greenbone Saga, starting with this one, Jade City, is one of the most unique fantasy books I think I've read in a very, very long time. And it's just, the character work in this is just wonderful. This is a world you just want to live in, even though it's kind of violent and everyone's mad at each other, but it's okay. It's still really good. Next up, American Gods by Neil Gaiman. This is another one that the first time I read it, I don't think I really got it, but then I read it years later, having kind of graduated from grad school and kind of joined the real world. And this book really hit me really, really hard the second time. It speaks to the things that we lose touch with as we get older, and the things that we kind of need to forge a connection with. And the way things change and society changes, and feeling like you're stuck and the whole world's running ahead of you. So this one, I adore this one so much. Next up is kind of a cliche, but everything Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, all of it. I love it so much. It's sort of one of those first fantasy worlds that I encountered when I was young, where you could inhabit it, you could live in it. And it feels like there's so much more to tell in this world. And that's, I think, what makes it so engaging, is it doesn't just feel like the world is created specifically for the story. It feels like the world was created first, and then we just got to see like a bit of the story, but we know there's more. So love it, love it, love it. This one's kind of a guilty pleasure, but I love Anne Rice so much. A lot of her books aren't amazing, but Interview with the Vampire, at least the first three books in her Vampire Chronicles series, are a big favorite of mine. I love them so much. They're dramatic, they're melodramatic even. They're ridiculous in a fun way, and they ask big questions about the universe that I like. So I never really quite got out of being like a teenage emo. And then finally, I've got Homer's Odyssey. This is Emily Wilson's translation, which came out a few years ago, and it's my favorite so far. This is just one of those essential classics forever. As a kid who was obsessed with Greek mythology, I read this a million times, read it in school a million times, and have read it a million times since. And it's one of those things where a world that feels like it's commenting on today's issues, even though this was written like thousands and thousands of years ago, it feels like it's relevant and addressing the human condition in ways that are very profound. And I love it. I will always love the Odyssey. I love the Iliad too, but the Odyssey will always be my favorite. Love it so much. So, with that said, what do I want this channel to be about? There's going to be lots of geeking out. That's going to happen. I'm sorry. I can't fix that. But I'd love to hear from you guys. If you have questions about books, suggestions about books, if there's any kind of new authors that you love dearly and you want more people to know about, send them my way. I'm always looking to read new authors, and even especially if it's sci-fi fantasy, I love all of that. And another thing that I wanted to do, and this is probably a holdover from me being a teacher at one point, is I really want to demystify classics, especially for younger people who are still in school. There's a lot of bad information out there about how to read older books, reading literature, and I feel like a lot of teachers forget that reading literature is enjoyable. It's supposed to be fun, and so finding ways to take a work of literature and pour it through a sieve and see what comes out and kind of tear it apart and put it back together again and play with it, I think is the best way to engage with that kind of stuff. And I really want to do lots more about that and talking about like ways to read classic literature in a way that's accessible, especially Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare so much, but I feel like a lot of teachers don't really present Shakespeare in the best way. So we're gonna work with that. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I don't proclaim to be any kind of like expert on any kind of subject, but I've studied a lot of this stuff, and I don't want any of that to just kind of go to waste. I really want to share that with people. And also, I just want to geek out about books that I love. So that's what this channel is going to be about, and I look forward to going on this journey with you.